Have you heard of the 5 stages of grief? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And over the past week, I think I have been closer to the earlier phases of those emotional states. The shock of actually seeing the empty streets was something that was very difficult for me to mentally accept and understand, which I suspect may have been the reason behind some of the irrational behavior occurring around the country last week, like the hoarding of toilet paper. I mean, come on, seriously? It is Saturday, March 28th. It's week 2 of the lockdown here in New York City. And unfortunately, the statistic has been grim. The United States had confirmed more than 100,000 cases of the COVID-19 viruses, and a quarter of which is right here in New York City. And what may be even more disturbing is that the sentiment I'm hearing from a lot of the experts and even the mayor are that it's just a matter of time before a large percentage of the population here in this city, or even the whole country, will contract this virus. Which is a staggering thing to consider. Now, thankfully, the mortality rates in this country has been low so far. Out of the 26,000 confirmed cases here in New York, there had only been 451 deaths. Not that it's a good thing, of course, but still, that is a significantly lower number compared to some of the other country that is seeing similar outbreak. Of course, that number may rise as time goes on, and especially if the medical system were to become overwhelmed, a prospect of which the state government here in New York City has been doing everything they can to avoid, including drastic measures such as converting the J.K. Javits Center into a field hospital to increase the total number of beds available. And that brings us back to social distancing. Now, both of my parents are in the older and more vulnerable category, and as a result, I had asked both of them to avoid leaving the house as much as I can, and I also volunteer to do all the grocery shopping for them at Flushing, since that is one instance where you have no choice but to interact with a large group of strangers. And that is where the Godway Monster, which I'm riding, has been immensely helpful. It has both the range and speed to make the 30 miles round trip easily. And yes, you can accomplish the same thing with a car, but the problem being that given the cost of maintaining, operating, and especially parking a car in the neighborhood I live in, which is East Village of New York City, is so high that you have to be independently wealthy to be able to afford a car, which obviously I am not. And yes, New York City is under soft lockdown. Everyone is advised to stay home as much as they can and to only leave for brief periods of exercise around the neighborhood and to get food. And those people who are tested positive and not showing really bad symptoms are asked to voluntarily go home and self-isolate. And since there's really no system in place to keep track of them, the only thing we can do is to rely on their good senses so as to not go out of their house and infect others. Kelly has been watching news from Taiwan, and there, if you were tested positive, you're required to register with the government, and if you're ever found outside of your home and the police do check, you're faced with really stiff fine and potentially even be criminally charged if you were to infect other people. Of course, in Taiwan, the sense is that they still believe that they can contain and control the spread of the virus, while here in New York, I get the sense that they're only looking to slow down the transmission so as to make sure that our healthcare system does not get overwhelmed. Now, as empty as this is here in Queens, it still seems like there's a little bit more people than there are in Manhattan, which I suspect may has to do with the fact that people out in the outer borough have more ready access to cars as compared to all the people that live in the city who rely mostly on public transportations. As a matter of fact, I overheard a conversation right outside of our local Whole Foods between two guys who were waiting to get in. They were saying that they took a $26 Uber ride to their local Whole Foods only to find that most of the things that they were looking for were already sold out. And they had no choice to take another Uber ride to a different Whole Foods just so that they can finish what's on their shopping list. You know, the fact that this is a wet, gray, and cold day isn't really helping. Now, if you have seen some of my prior footage, you know that Flushing is usually absolutely mobbed. As a matter of fact, next to Times Square, this is just about one of the most crowded places in New York City. Since not only is it a popular spot for all the people in the area to come and do their Asian grocery shopping, it is also a major transit hub where people transfer from and to the subway system, since it's the end of the 7 line. Oh, what time do you guys close?
I'll say we close at 6, but I say 5:15, 5:30 we close the doors.
So I missed the opening hours of the supermarket, and not just this one, but every single market in Flushing now all closes at 5 p.m. Since from what I hear, the workers at the market have been so overwhelmed, they had demanded that their hours be reduced. I guess it's understandable given that their responsibility of keeping up with what seems to be an endless demand for supplies, and now on top of which they have to maintain orders and enforce social distancing in the store as well. And I saw that firsthand since I wasn't the only one frustrated at having missed their opening hours. At another market I stopped by, the employee had to endure loud verbal abuses from multiple disgruntled customers. And although I wasn't thrilled with the prospect of having wasted my trip to Flushing, at least I kept it to myself. And then of course it starts to rain. And my mic goes out. Wonderful. But regardless of this, there's still just minor inconveniences. There are thousands of medical workers in local hospitals struggling against severe shortages of supplies, ventilator, beds, and everything else while still attempting to save lives in the midst of all this chaos. I had to be thankful that for now, me and my family and friends all managed to stay healthy. So for now, all we can do is to keep to ourselves and hope that next week there'll be better news. And I hope you'll all stay safe as well. Until next week, thank you.